is Aditya from Finsweet. Today I'm going to show you how you can set up a looping carousel of logos and content using Splide JS.
That's effing sweet.
Right, so I've noticed, like, as of late, a lot of projects have been using this kind of marquee animation where things just move from left to right endlessly, and it's something that clients have been asking for more and more often. And I felt like there are a lot of solutions. You can do it with Webflow interactions. You can there's a lot of ways to do it, but I felt like Splide is probably the easiest of them all, and that is primarily what I want to show, like how easy it is and what are the different things you can do with it. The first thing we want to do is we want to grab the CDNs. So I'm just going to close some of these tabs that we don't need, and I'm going to go ahead and type in Splide CDN. So you can just go here to, actually, instead of taking it from their site, I will go to CDN JS. This is like the best place to grab CDNs for everything. So we're going to be grabbing the JavaScript file first. I'm going to copy the whole script tag, and I'm going to paste it inside of my body tag. And I'm also going to copy the CSS, and I'm going to paste that inside of the head tag. We need the CSS and we need the JS. So that's Splide, imported the CDNs. But since we are using auto scroll in this example, since we want to make sure that when you load the page, the logos are already moving, we will be using an extension of Splide that is called auto scroll. And this is the auto scroll extension. Again, you can find this CDN on JS Deliver. So I'm just going to go there. And I'm going to copy the CDN for auto scroll. Actually, this is going to go inside of the body. All right. So those are the all the scripts that are imported. All right. So let's do the setup inside of Webflow. It's fairly straightforward. So what you have here right now is classic client first section home logos. You have padding global inside it. You have padding vertical, container large, text align center. So we have all of our content here. I'm just going to go ahead and create one more div block, go to margin top, and let's give it a margin large. That's good. So this is where we will be putting in our logos, grid, or slider, carousel, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go ahead and add in another div block. Let's call this one Splide. You can call it anything you want, but I'm going to call it Splide. Let's just make sure that we give it an ID, because this is what we're going to be using when we add in the custom code to make this slider work. So logos is the ID. I'm going to go ahead and give it. And then what you have to do is you have to add 3 more div blocks, one inside the other. We have it all. Now I'm going to call this Splide track. And these you cannot change. These have to stay the same. So Splide track, Splide list, and Splide slide. All right, and the slide is where your image can stay. So I'm just going to add in an image, and let's go ahead and select a random logo here. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this like 8 times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And just for the sake of making it look good, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I select an actual logo for all of these. And you'll notice I didn't have to apply like any styles to any of those div blocks that I just created. All you have to do is apply the styles, really. Apply the classes, sorry. You don't have to apply any styles to it, only the classes. So you'll notice Splide here has nothing. Splide track has nothing. It's all default styles, nothing to do here. So that's like our whole setup. And I think we can go ahead and start working on implementing the code to make it all work now. Of course, right now it's a simple looking list of logos. So I'm going to go back to my page settings. The first thing I want to add is, of course, my script, which I just grabbed from somewhere, which I will share with you. But this is the script. And I think what you find on Splide's actual website, Splide auto scroll, is a little bit different than this. So this is what you want to be using. We are using an ID here to target the Splide slider that we just created. The ID was logos, so you will see logos here. We create a function, so you just have to make sure that these are always the same. They can be, they don't have to match the name of the ID, but just make sure that you're using a unique function name. And we are using this part that will auto start the auto scroll feature, and we are mentioning a speed of 0.8. And let's see how that looks right now. I know it's gonna look horrible, but I like to publish things, step by step. All right, horrible. I'm just gonna now go ahead and start adding in some options that we have for customization and basically try and make it look better. So I'm gonna start with, let's add a per page. So what this does is it allows you to show an exact number of slides per page. So I'm gonna go ahead with 5. We will see what that looks like in a bit. Since we had those ugly looking arrows here and also this pagination, I'm gonna turn those to false. So arrows, false, pagination, false. So that's gonna remove those things. What we also wanna do is we want the logos to be on loop, right? We don't want the slide to just stop after all the 8 logos are done. We want it to continue looping. So I'm gonna do type loop. These are all things that you can find inside of Splide options. So if you go to Splide options, just Google that and you will see options here. And you will see it has plenty of these options. So we're just gonna be using some of the most important ones that you will most likely need. And yeah, I'm just gonna use those. And remember, you have to put a comma after that, otherwise it breaks. So after every single line of these, make sure you have a comma added. So let's see what that looks like. I love it when the site gets published this quick. Never happens in client projects. All right. Looks like we are already set. It looks good. It's just that it's cutting off here when it shouldn't. So let's see why that's happening. So let's add in an override style to the slide track, and let's say overflow visible important. This is going to override anything that might be blocking probably not the container as well, because container is visible, but let's see if that does it. There we go. Yep, it was the Splide track. So I remember now, this was one of the problems that I ran into ages ago. I just couldn't figure it out, and then I remembered it was a track. So now it looks good, and you can also drag it, and it pauses by default when you hover on it. So there are a few more options that you can use here. For example, pause on hover, pause on focus. So if we turn this false, it's no longer going to pause when you hover on it. And let's see what else we can use. Let's see. Let me open up the code again. You can also use focus center. So what this does is it starts your slider from the middle, and when you drag it, it's always gonna center the slide that you're on. So I normally like to always include this. You can also one more important option here is to keep a certain gap between each slide. Now I know you have 5 per page, but for example, if you make your screen smaller, it all kind of sticks together. So having that gap there, always make sure that there is always that 1.5 rem between between each slide. So I've done that. I'm just gonna publish. So I think that's pretty much looking good. There's one more option that I like to use. It's the direction. So right now by default it's going from like right to left. But if you want to make it go from left to right, you can always add in direction LTR. So that's left to right. You can also do RTL. So that's right to left. So that's pretty straightforward. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and duplicate this and create a new carousel, but with text instead. All right, let's keep going. Let's go ahead and create a second instance of this slider. It looks pretty ugly in the editor, in the designer. So if you want clients to manage this content, you can even set this up with CMS, and that is again something we are going to come to next. For now, I'm going to move on, and let's duplicate this entire section. And instead of all of these images, I'm just going to have one single slide, and I'm just going to add in a heading that says, "This is a cool heading." And that's it. I'm just going to turn this into now a slider that loops. And just one thing to remember, you have to change the ID because there can only be one unique ID. So let's call this text maybe. I mean, yeah, text works. Let's go ahead and duplicate the first instance that we created. So of course, like you obviously know this, but you don't have to duplicate all of these scripts. All you have to do is duplicate this main script that we are using here. And then I would ideally change the name of this function because it's a unique new instance. And I would also change this ID. I think this should be enough to make it work, but here we just have one slide, so I'm not going to use per page. I'm just going to remove that. And I think I will leave the rest as is, and let's see what that looks like. Let's see. Okay, so I only see it once. Okay, it is happening. It is looping, but it's like extremely far away from the other slides. And let me take a look at why that is happening. There is an option that lets you set the width of each slide to auto. So I think it's called auto width. We're just going to turn that to true. So what this does, I think, is it will just automatically detect the width of the slide and just make sure it puts the next slide right next to it. So let's see if that helps. And there we go. It is looking good. So, but hold on, it's not exactly looping correctly. Let's see. Maybe we don't need to add the focus to it. Let's see what else. Auto width is good. Arrows, pagination, direction. All of this looks good. I think we're good. Let's just see what it looks like without the focus. Oh, okay. All right. So it looks like there is something wrong with it. All right. So this is the code I copied just now from a version that is working correctly. So I'm just gonna change this to text. This can be anything. What we have here, we have gap. I mean, all of this is pretty much exactly what we had. Let's see if this works. Let's try adding one more slide. I mean, if it was just one slide, maybe that's a problem. So let's try adding one more. See if that helps. Although I think it's gonna be the same. Okay, I think it's working now. All right, so you probably need to have at least 2 slides. So just, whatever text you're using, duplicate it and make sure you have 2 slides. I think Splide just wants to have enough content there. All right, so well, that's how you do text. And I remember there is a problem with this, that if you change the direction to the opposite, it kind of messes things up. So let's try that. So if I change the direction from left to right to right to left, let's see how that looks. So, all right, interesting. So as you can see, like the full stop is now, instead of being in the end, it's in the beginning, and this one's looking weird. So I'm just gonna give it a class again, and let's make sure that there is a no wrap applied so that it doesn't break into multiple lines. And on top of that, actually, first let's see if that improves things. Okay, let's take a look. That's looking good. And I will go ahead and add a gap, because why is there no gap? It's 0 rem. Let's make that 2. I just want to make sure the full stop there is at the right place. It's not at the beginning. Okay, it is at the beginning. So this is something that happens with Splide, that if you go from right to left, it just puts your full stops and commas in the beginning of the sentence. And I found a bit of a hack to solve that. Like if your client really says that I want it to be right to left, but then it becomes a deal breaker. So what you can do is you can also use a negative value here. So if you change this to -1.5, I remember doing something like this, playing with the left to right and right to left and the minus and pluses, and it just worked. So let's see if that helps. Okay, now it's moving the other direction, but the full stop is still there. So now let's change the right to left to left to right. There you go. Now it's moving from left to right, and the full stop is now at the right place. So I think that works perfectly. So I will share a read-only link for this so that you can just copy these perfectly working carousels, and then all you have to do to use it in your project is, it's as simple as I have a project here. It's a duplicate, and this does not have a slider in here. But what we can do is just copy this whole section. I'm just trying to show you like how you can easily reuse this in a different project. So just copy that section, paste it inside of the main wrapper, and all of the content is in here now. And then all you have to do is copy this bit and paste, and then copy this bit, and you're done. I'm not copying the text code. I'm just doing it for the logos. If I publish this is a completely separate project. It will work. So it's just, all it takes is a minute to now just reuse this in other projects. You just really have to build it once, and that's it. As you can see, it's working perfectly here. And this project had none of this a minute ago. All right, now quickly gonna go ahead and turn this into a CMS setup. So first of all, I'm gonna delete all of these slides. Let's keep only one. I'm gonna remove that ugly hover interaction from the image. And now let's go ahead and drop in a collection list inside of Splide. So now this is inside Splide. As you know, we have 3 layers inside of this. So obviously the first layer will be the Splide slide. The second one will be list. And the first one will be track. And I have a CMS for this right now called logos. I have 8 images inside it. So you can totally just use that. I'm going to move the image here and get the images from the CMS, of course. Okay, there we go. And it will work. Like, I have absolutely no doubt saying that it will work. Let's see. Yep, it is working. And I think it is working just fine. That's how simple it is to basically change that from static to CMS. And now your client can just go ahead and keep adding and removing logos from here, and you don't have to worry about it. We can also use this with the multi-image field. So I'm just quickly going to go ahead and show you how to do that too. It's obviously very similar, but still, just want to cover that scenario as well. Let's say you have a case studies collection. I'm not going to create a lot of fields, just one field for multi-image. So let's say you want to show like a carousel of logos for each case study. I'm going to copy this entire page wrapper and paste it in the case studies template that I just created. And I'm going to disconnect everything here and link it to the logos multi-image field. And right now I don't have any fields, so let's any items in here. So let's create one. So case study A, and I'm going to add in all my logos. I have all of them in handy here. It's the first time in my life I've been so organized. All right, create. And yeah, we have the images right here. All right, all 8 of them. And of course, don't forget to move your code over. So save. And gonna copy the first part of this. We don't need the text. That's it. It should work. So it works with multi-image fields. I can't decide if I should say multi or multi, whichever is correct. But yeah, let's see if that works. Yes, it does. Why do we have 2 of those? Oh, because we copied this one as well. This can go away. It was a text carousel, which we don't need here. Oh, yeah, breakpoints. One of the most important things. Let's get to that. So you have a breakpoints option, of course. So I'm just going to go ahead now and add it. Before we do that, let's see what it looks like. Like right now, as you like on this screen size, it looks perfect. Okay. So as you go smaller, it just gets squished. It looks good to like, I don't know, 1300. So we're going to add in breakpoints from that point onwards. Okay, so the code for it looks something like this. So after you're done with your auto scroll code, you can go ahead and add in another one for breakpoints, very similar format to that. And of course, don't forget to close the bracket. I'm going to change this to 1440. Actually, 1320 just for this example. And I'm going to change the per page to 4. Actually, one important thing to note, by default, it treats this like 1320 and above, not 1320 and below. So when you do 1320 and just add per page 5, that means it's going to show 5 slides if it's 1320 and above. So of course I want that, and then I will go ahead and add one more that says 1080. And here I'm going to go ahead and make it 4. I'm going to add in one more for 992. And here we're going to make it 3.5. You can actually use these decimal values, but 0.7 and stuff doesn't work. So just stick with 3.5. So in the multiples of 5. Let's see. So it's 5 per page when you are more than 30 and 20, and the moment you go below that, it's 4. I think it's still 5. Let's see where I've been changing that. It's on the home page, right? Okay, so 30 and 20 and above, it's 5. 1080 and above, it's 4. Let me see if that's, let me remove this comments as well. Let me just publish that again just to make sure it's... Okay, it is working. It is working. So it goes down to 3.5, as you can see, when you switch between 992 and the one above that. So basically, you have to play around with this, and you have to just basically... what I like to do is I use this inspect tool to reduce my screen size. I know it's a primitive way. Maybe there are better ways to do it, but this is just what I like to do. So just increase, you can actually see the screen width in pixels on top when you drag this. So yeah, just make sure it looks good on all breakpoints. And I'll just add one more option here. I think it's called destroy. So let's say you don't want to use this on mobile. You want to, on mobile, you just want to turn it into a static, simple grid. So what you can do is let's add another one, and let's go ahead and say 320 and above. So for all mobile devices, destroy true. And as far as I know, it should destroy the slider and just turn that into a simple grid. For anything between 320 to 992. Actually, it didn't. Is it going to do that after 320? Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So maybe I may have been a little bit wrong, and I want to take a few things back. It looks like it's whatever this number is and below, not above. So it's 1320 and below. It's 1080 and below. So my bad. It's actually... So if I say 780 destroy true, it should, as the moment you go under 780, it will turn that into a grid, and then you can style it how you want. Okay, 780, and there we go, destroyed. All right, so that's how you use breakpoints. It's very straightforward. Just play around with it and destroy it when you feel like it. All right, so the last thing, and also like once it's been destroyed, like you can go ahead and then probably style this however you want. So, for example, turn this into a grid, and I think it should work. And the last thing I'm going to show is, for example, sometimes your client might say that we want the slider to start playing only when you scroll into view, and then pause again when you scroll out of view. So that way it's like it starts at a desired point. So it's possible to do that as well. And that's what I'm going to show next. So if you go to under 780 now, it didn't turn into the grid that we wanted it to turn into, because there is a display block applied to the Splide list. All right, that's the Splide list. The Splide track, what did we actually... Okay, we did it to the list. So that should work. Okay, so maybe we just need to use some CSS override here. So just maybe add in a media query and write a custom style for display grid for any screen sizes 767 and smaller, and give it an importance, and that will definitely override the display block, and it will make sure that it looks like in a proper grid style layout. All right, so for this last thing, where you start playing the slider only when you scroll into view, we're going to use another extension. So for example, this auto scroll was an extension. There is another extension called intersection. So I'm just going to try and find that Splide intersection. And if you open that, you will find the JS Deliver link for the CDN. You always need to make sure you import the right CDNs for it to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and add in that CDN here. Okay, I believe that's it. So now that we want to make it play only when you scroll into view, we no longer want to auto start, right? So I'm gonna remove this auto start true from here. So here we just mentioned the speed, and we have, let's see, we have this right here. This is super powerful. So you can just copy this. You can paste it here just after your auto scroll. And if you again look at it, you will see the options here include autoplay, true or false, but we are not using autoplay, we are using auto scroll. So we have that here too. So I just have to copy that and say that in view, auto scroll true, and out of view, auto scroll false. And I believe it should, and remember, we removed the auto start. We had that before to make the slider start playing immediately as you load the page, but we removed it because we want it to play only when you scroll into view. So let's see. Okay, it's not working. Maybe there's a small mistake somewhere that I'm not looking at. Okay, that looks good. This looks... Oh, we didn't close the bracket. There we go. Oh, that looks wrong. Okay, after we close the bracket, there needs to be a comma. So it's there now. And that should work. I'm fairly confident it should work. Let's see. Okay, so it is playing because you are looking at it right now. But I'm going to scroll out of view. And let's remember that this QC logo is right in the middle. Let's see. Let's come back 5 seconds later. And let's see if it's still there. Okay, I think it's been 5 seconds now. It's still there. So now it's only going to move when someone's looking at it. And I think this is very powerful because sometimes you may want to make sure your content doesn't get missed. So you can always use this intersection method to make sure that it stops, it pauses when someone's not looking at it. So that was it. Today we covered a lot about what you can do with SplideJS, how you can customize it, use the different options that it has to offer, and create a bunch of really cool sliders. And I would love to do this again and see you in the next one.